So guys, long-term viewers will know that my favourite heavyweight boxer by some margin at the minute is Tyson Fury. They'll also know that my favourite heavyweight prospect by some margin over the last couple of months and years has been Joseph Parker. So I read with interest a Twitter exchange between the two guys where Tyson Fury was asking Joseph Parker about his future fights. Parker confirmed that he would be fighting Carlos Takam, as we know, and Tyson Fury responded to say that Joseph Parker will smash Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam comes forward and walks into punches, and whilst it would be a very, very good fight for Joseph Parker's ranking and place within the division, it would be a one-sided fight that Joseph Parker would win. Now I'm paraphrasing there. That, of course, is not a direct quote or anything even approaching a direct quote, but I think it's fair to say that was the general direction. Now, I've also had several other exchanges with people online who believe that Carlos Takam is very, very basic. That he's a small guy, he comes forward, he fundamentally can be outboxed, and he's a sitting duck for a guy like Joseph Parker. I've had people say that Povetkin knocked him out, so Parker will be able to knock him out, etc. And do you know what? I think people are reading this fight terribly wrongly. I think Carlos Takam is one of the most underrated fighters out there. When I think of Carlos Takam, and I won't go into this, I'll try and keep this slightly light on detail because I know I've mentioned this in previous videos, but if I look at Carlos Takam, I think of three fights. I think of the Mike Perez fight, I scored the first 5 rounds to Mike Perez. Carlos Takam was getting outboxed, but Carlos Takam showed the engine of a lion to storm home and sweep the late rounds and score a draw that most people felt was actually a draw that was more in Takam's favour than Perez's favour. In that fight, to me, he showed a lot of mental toughness, a lot of resilience, and a great sort of engine and fitness to sweep the late rounds. I then think of the Tony Thompson fight. Tony Thompson is a guy who routinely can expose contenders who aren't up to the world class. We saw it happen to David Price, we saw it happen to Odlanier Solis, but Carlos Takam completely took Tony Thompson's game away from him. Took his distance, took his range, took his timing, smothered him. Beat him up. Takam isn't really a one-punch knockout artist, but for that fight, he showed the tactics were really smart. A guy like Tony Thompson, you don't want to give him time, you don't want to let him fight at his own pace, you don't want to let him fight at his own range. He starved Tony Thompson of air and made life very, very tough for him in that fight. That was a really, really good win. That was an underrated win. Then I think of Alexander Povetkin, and yeah, Povetkin did win by knockout. It was a good knockout. But as I said, and I've said time and time again, people forget that Carlos Takam was even on the judges' scorecards after 8 rounds in that fight. He was causing Povetkin a lot of bother, boxing him from long. A lot of bother. And Alexander Povetkin is legitimately one of the most proven punchers in the heavyweight division. Alexander Povetkin has an elite resume. Now, Joseph Parker looks to be a very hard puncher, but his punching power is no way as proven as Alexander Povetkin's. Not even on the same league at this stage. I'm not saying Parker can't get there. I'm just saying at this particular moment, he isn't there. He isn't proven punching power at the Povetkin levels. Povetkin is an Olympic gold medalist in the amateurs, and Carlos Takam was causing him all sorts of problems boxing long. So what I'm saying is, I look at Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam has his limitations. He is not the elite athlete. He is not the elite power puncher. I'm not saying that this guy is the second coming of Muhammad Ali here at all. I'm not. But this is a guy who brings a lot to the table. This is a guy who's gone the distance multiple times against quality opponents. People say he's got low stamina. I don't see it. I think he's got a good engine. I thought the fight he fought against Tony Thompson would have been very draining on someone's fitness. I thought the fight he fought against Mike Perez showed that he had a good engine. I think he's tactically versatile. We're looking at a guy here who could box along with Alexander Povetkin and have it evens on the scorecards. We're looking at a guy who can get into a scrap into the pocket. Rough up a guy like Tony Thompson on the inside, hit him to the body, starve him over there. He's a major, major test here. A major test for a guy like Joseph Parker. I mean, Joseph Parker has not fought anyone in Carlos Takam's league. And, Joseph Parker, whilst I was saying that he should be stepped up in level of opposition, speaking frankly, I'd have had one or two fights between Jason Bergman and Carlos Takam. Because Jason Bergman is not a top 50 heavyweight. Carlos Takam is a top 10 heavyweight. There's no one in between. I mean, sure, Parker's fought Cali Meehan, Jason Petaway, Bowie Tipu, some sort of decent opposition. But Carlos Takam is a guy I would comfortably pick over all of those names. Takam's an unfashionable fighter, but he's a real decent guy, and I think he's being underrated by a lot of people out there. I think Tyson Fury's underrating him. It's not rare that I disagree with Tyson Fury, and I think a lot of the boxing public are. Initially, when this fight was made, I said it's a 55-45 fight in Joseph Parker's favour. I thought Parker's momentum, his youth, and his athleticism were all in his favour in terms of winning this fight. But as I've thought about it more, as I've taken my time to consider, I'm actually viewing this as a pure 50-50 fight. This is a fight where Joseph Parker could well get upset. He's going to face challenges here that he hasn't faced whatsoever in his professional career so far. Parker is a power punching heavyweight, but we're going to have to assume that Carlos Takam is someone who's going to hang around. I think Jason Bergman took Parker, 7-8 rounds. Sherman Williams went the distance with Parker. Parker is a guy who can be made to fight late in fights. He doesn't have such big punching power that this will definitely be a one-round job in his favour. And we've seen defensive frailties in Parker's game. And a guy like Carlos Takam is going to bring so much more offensively than Jason Bergman did. He's not going to be a slow, lumbering guy looking to land one sort of, Hail Mary type punch. He's some guy who can fight on the inside, fight on the outside. He can box a bit, he can move a bit, jab a bit, he can hit to the body a bit, he can have a bit of wrestle. He's got a few different strings to his bow, Carlos Takam. And if Parker loses his discipline, if he doesn't stay defensively strong, this really is a fight that he could lose. He really could lose. A lot of people said to me at first, why is it that you thought Carlos Takam is a good matchup for Joseph Parker, but Charles Martin isn't a good matchup for Anthony Joshua? And I think when I did my heavyweight rankings, I had Martin and Takam separated by only one place. So they're a similar standard of heavyweight in a ranking sense. But for me initially, I thought Charles Martin has more momentum. He's bigger. He's a southpaw. He's got more power. So even though they're ranked the same, Martin's a more dangerous fighter. I also kind of thought Anthony Joshua had such popularity and is making so much money, he didn't need to gamble so early on in his career with a big fight. Whereas I think Joseph Parker isn't making the superstar money and he hasn't got a superstar profile globally yet, so I felt he needed to gamble a bit more. So I think initially, whilst I thought both of those fights were a massive step up, I was more inclined to say that this was a good fight rather than the Joshua fight. But now I think about it, and I must admit, I'm increasingly uncomfortable. A lot of people, even Tyson Fury, writing Carlos Takam off completely here. This is a big fight for a 23-year-old guy. This is a real step up, considering Parker didn't put in his best performance last time out, and so there was a lot that still needed to be worked on. I'm not coming out here yet and saying that I'm going to pick Carlos Takam. I need to have more of a think about it. My initial inkling was actually to pick Joseph Parker. I do think Parker has certain advantages in athleticism and clearly things like hand speed and combination speed, etc. But if Parker isn't on his A game, and he wasn't last time out, he can definitely get upset, and people shouldn't be too quick to write him off here. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button. Do subscribe to the channel. Many thanks for watching and stay tuned.